Shalom again, brethren. I'm sharing another lesson study, and I just want you to bear in mind that because I'm not an academic and I'm not a scholar, some of the information is taken from various sources that can be qualified once you do your due diligence and research. That said, the name of the lesson study is called Scriptural Application. Sometimes we ask the question, what does this scripture really mean? Or why does some of the scriptural characters seem irrelevant? We even ask the question, what do these ancient cultures have to do with anything about today? Sometimes a person may even say, I love Yahuwah. Why can't I understand what he is saying to me through his word? And what's going on in the lives of these scriptural or biblical people? Well, let's find out how we can find out these things. Yahuwah encourages us, he urges us to apply his word. We can see this when we read Isaiah chapter 42 verses 23. It says, who among you will give ear to this? Who will hearken and hear for the time to come? We can also read in 1 Corinthians chapter 10 verse 11, which states, now all these things happened unto them for examples, and they are written for our admonition, upon whom the ends of the world are come. Again, we read in 2 Thessalonians chapter 3 verse 4. And we have confidence in Yahuwah, touching you, that ye both do and will do the things which we command you. Too often we stop at accumulating scriptural or what is known as biblical knowledge. We must put into practice what we have learned from the scriptures. Applying Yahuwah's word is a vital part of one's relationship with Yahuwah. It is the evidence that we are obeying him. The difficulty in applying the scriptural words is not with the scriptures itself, but with the reader's inability to bridge the gap between the past and present, the conceptual and practical. When we don't or can't do this, scriptural dryness, shallowness, and indifference are the end results. The words of the scriptures cry out to us, they holler out to us. When we look at James chapter 1 verse 22, it says, be ye doers of the word. It says, but be ye doers of the word, and not hearers only, deceiving your own selves. The best way, therefore, to define scriptural application is to first determine what it is not. Scriptural application is not just accumulating knowledge. This helps us to discover and understand facts and concepts, but it stops there. History is filled with philosophers who knew what the Bible said. They knew what the scripture said, but failed to apply it to their lives, keeping them from believing and changing. Many think that understanding is the end goal of the scripture, or the end goal of scripture study, but it is really only the beginning. Scriptural application is not just illustration. Illustration only tells us how someone else handled a similar situation. While we may empathize with the person or with that person, we still have little direction for our personal situation. Scriptural application is not just making a passage relevant. Marking the scriptural relevant only helps us to see that the same lessons that were true in scriptural times are true today. It does not show us how to apply them to the problems and pressures of our individual lives. So what then is scriptural application? Scriptural application begins by knowing and understanding Yahuwah's word and its timeless truths. But we cannot stop there. If we do this, Yahuwah's word may not change our life, and it may become dull, difficult, tedious, and tiring. Good scriptural application focuses the truth of Yahuwah's word. It shows the reader what to do about what is being read. And it also motivates the reader to respond to what Yahuwah is teaching. All three are essential to scriptural application. Scriptural application is putting into practice what we already know. For instance, when we read in Mark chapter 4 verse 24, it says, "And he said unto them, Take heed what ye hear. With what measure ye mete, it shall be measured to you, and unto you that hear shall more be given." We can also read in the book of Hebrews chapter 5 verse 14. Hebrews chapter 5 verse 14 reads, "But strong meat belongeth to them that are of full age, even those who by reason of use have their senses exercised to discern both good and evil." So like I would have said, scriptural application is putting into practice what we already know and answering the question, so what? By confronting us with the right questions and motivating us to take action. For instance, as we may read in 1 John chapter 2 verse 5, "But whoso keepeth his word, in him verily is the love of Yahuwah perfected. Hereby know we that we are in him." And verse 6 says, "He that saith he abideth in him ought himself also to walk even as he walked." And again, if we read James 2 verses 17, I believe, let's see. Yes, James 2 verses 17. "Even so faith, if it have not works, it is dead, being alone." So brethren, we can clearly see that scriptural application is deeply personal, unique for each individual. It is making a relevant truth a personal truth, and involves developing a strategy and action plan to live your life in harmony with the scripture. It is the scriptural how-to of life. The scriptures teach, direct, lead, guide, inspire, recommend, and urge us to apply such things that we would have read. All of the resources, or in other words, all of the information that we need to understand scriptural application is within the scripture. Each individual then is the only person, the only one that can take these resources and put them into practice for themselves personally. Therefore, one that claims they are serving Yahuwah, one that claims that they love Yahuwah, need to examine themselves to see if they're actually using the scriptures, to see if they're actually applying applying the scriptures as it is before them. Bear in mind, brethren, that because the scriptures are translated from the Hebrew, the Aramaic, and the Greek, it behooves us to get the resources that we need to help us understand the root words, the etymology, so to speak, of each individual word, whether it be the name of a place, whether it be the name of a person, whether it be the name of an animal or a flower for that matter. Each word has more than one meaning that will help us to greatly understand what the scripture expects for us to apply. Brethren, again, this lesson study, like I said, is not from a person that is an academic or a scholar. I am a simple farmer who Yahuwah has been blessing because of humbling myself, because of bowing to his will for my life and allowing his will to flow within my life. This lesson study, therefore, is shared with you as an encouragement. Shalom, brethren.